What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Monday, October 27th. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, I'm going to try and calm down after what happened in last night's Mexico Grand Prix and talk to you about my Brazilian Grand Prix team selection, the São Paulo Grand Prix team selection, and all that fun stuff as we ramp up for the second to last, the penultimate sprint of the 2025 F1 fantasy season, what my team's going to look like, who we should be looking at, chip strategy, all that fun stuff. But don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are inching closer to that 4,000 subs by the end of the season goal that I have set. And don't forget that every video from now until the end of the season, I'm hoping to get at least 150 likes. You guys are crushing that goal every single video, but just want to reiterate that at the top of the video. And don't forget, if you enjoy my videos that much, you can sign up for the YouTube membership or the Patreon program, where starting Wednesday, there will be an exclusive series for YouTube members or Patreon subscribers. So check that out if you would like and hop into the Discord. And one final promo here is promo code UN50 for 50% off your first month at f1fantasytools.com. And I'll give you a little insider tip here. If you wait until the Saturday of that Brazilian Grand Prix that is coming up here, you will get 50% off for the final 4 races of the 2025 F1 fantasy season. So if you're looking to make a leap in your mini league, if you're looking to catch your rival, if you're looking to crack a overall rank in the global rankings kind of goal, you can get the final 4 races of the season for 50% off. Just give it a trial. See if you want to go with that for the entire 2026 season. I use it every video, every week, every deadline stream. So I highly recommend it. But enough promos. Let's just get into today's episode. Starting with a Brazilian Grand Prix race preview here. Obviously, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, 15 corners, 71 laps, 2 DRS zones, one of the best circuits on the F1 calendar. So really looking forward to this race. It usually produces a banger because of the weather and just overall, just the atmosphere, the track itself. It's like one of those old school tracks. It is hunky-dory. I adore it. As you can see above me, I've snuck into the top 2.5K in the world after the Mexican Grand Prix, which was a little bit up and down, but we can get into that a little bit later on in the episode. Over the last 3 seasons, Brazil is 13th for overtakes, but has 14 DNS, 4.6 per race. So watch out. If you have your no negative chip, probably going to want to deploy it. We're going to go over that in a little bit as well. And the 2024 podium was just like your usual Verstappen, Esteban, Ocon, and Pierre. Oh my goodness, what happened in 2024? It was the race to end all races. Max Verstappen pretty much went from a Q1 exit all the way to the front of the field with the rain. Lando Norris kind of bottled his title hopes. George Russell had a kind of heartbreak day as well. And Alpine, it was slow as a boat all season, but when it rains, a boat is good. So Alpine got their double podium, and they leapt up from 9th in the constructors to 5th or 6th. I can't remember it. Like got them so many millions of dollars by the end of the season. But it was a wild race, and hopefully we get another wild one this year as well. Moving over to the Pirelli preview. So last year, it was the C3, the C4, the C5. This year, they've gone a step harder, the C2, the C3, and C4. C2, C3, C4. So that is a little interesting that they're going harder in the compounds for once. I'm interested to see how that goes overall. Yesterday, we had a surprising 2-stop in the Mexican Grand Prix where a lot of people went medium, soft. Max Verstappen actually, or soft, medium, soft. Max Verstappen went medium, soft. He had a 1-stop race. Leclerc had a 1-stop race, and Lando had a 1-stop race. But pretty much the rest of the field that started on softs had a 2-stopper. So something interesting there. Pirelli finally manufacturing a 2-stop race, but we'll see how this all goes down in Brazil in a couple of weekends' time. Going over to the weather, super early weather forecast, obviously, but looks like it's going to be rainy, except Sunday. Partly sunny, 20% chance of rain, 22 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is okay. Don't mind that at all. Friday is cooler. Saturday is the hottest day with the biggest percent chance of rain. And then Sunday is another cool day with the least percent chance of rain. So like I said, this is Monday, October 27th when I'm recording this. I will do an updated weather forecast in next week's episode for transfer targets, but Yeah, it's looking like a classic Brazil race here where we're going to get some mixed conditions. So, like I said, no negative going to be super useful around here. Brazilian Grand Prix schedule, it is a sprint weekend, so we have to watch out for that. Right now, like yesterday, Europe just went over, fell back or autumned back, whatever you want to call it, in the daylight savings time. So they are an hour closer to the US Eastern time, or all US time zones actually. And then this weekend, I believe the United States also falls back. I believe Brazil does not observe the super outdated, wonky daylight savings time. So these are the times that you all need to know for your parts of the world for deadlines and when you want to watch them. So Friday, we've got free practice and sprint qualifying. Saturday is the sprint race. That is the F1 Fantasy deadline for the Brazilian Grand Prix, for the São Paulo Grand Prix. 11 a.m. local time, 2 p.m. UK time, and 9 a.m. Eastern. So watch out for that. Grand Prix on Sunday, 2 p.m. local, 5 p.m. UK, midday US Eastern. So make sure you don't miss a single session for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Okay, Tier B budget builds. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Ollie Behrman, take a frickin' bow, sir. 4th place in the Mexican Grand Prix. Are you kidding me? He was looking on for a podium there for a second until like Verstappen just managed to like kind of eke out the one stop and nearly chase down Charles Leclerc. Once again, we're going to get into that virtual safety car rant at the end of the episode. So if you really just want to see me lose my mind, skip ahead in the timestamps below. But in the Tier B right now, there are 6 drivers who can score less than 15 points and go up 0.6 million at the Brazilian Grand Prix. I know we are in there's 4 races to go, so budget isn't all that, but there are people who are still looking to get enough budget to utilize their extra DRS in Qatar or Vegas or something like that. So Behrman, Bortoleto, Tsunoda, Gasly, Colapinto, and Albon here are the 6 drivers in Tier B that can go up 0.6 million if they score less than 15 points. Behrman, barring a DNF or a couple of DNFs, he will rise, and he's going to be a pretty good rise for Vegas as well. So I expect him to be quite popular, especially with how strong he's coming on. Over the last 5 races, he's averaging 13 points per race. That's obviously boosted by the 39 points he scored yesterday, but over the last 5 races, it's still pretty good. Bortoleto, 9.6. I kept Gabriel Bortoleto in my squad this weekend at the Mexico City Grand Prix, because I didn't really think there was a better option to move to. Obviously, Ollie Behrman was a better option to move to, but it is the Brazilian Grand Prix. This is the first time we've had a Brazilian driver in F1 for a while, so maybe, I mean, it's not maybe, but it definitely gives him a boost in the driver of the day rankings. And honestly, had a pretty good drive yesterday compared to what happened at COTA. Tsunoda is clinging on to a great COTA there, so he only needs -1 point for a great price rise in Brazil, but then that will get a little bit trickier for Vegas, where 17 and 22 if he continues his 11.8 points per race average. Pierre Gasly has gone up. He is now 4.7 million, so I'm expecting a price fall. However, in a sprint weekend, you never know. 1 point for a good price rise, 5 points for a great price rise. There could be a world where we're heading into Las Vegas and Pierre Gasly is more expensive. Actually, Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto are both more expensive than Fernando Alonso, because RIP to Fernando Alonso's managers over the last 2 weeks. He has sunk y'all. So let me know in the comments below if you have been a Fernando Alonso believer. I thought he was a fine hold this weekend. I didn't think he was going to suffer that much in Mexico. Like, he still needed like negative points to go up a like max price rise, and a DNF again just totally sinks him from now until probably the final race of the season. So apologies if you are with Fernando Alonso in your F1 fantasy team right now. Gasly, Colapinto, I don't think we need to get off them. We're just like hoping that they don't DNF at this point. Like, that's what I'm kind of hoping for. I would love to get off of both Alpine drivers if I have them, but sometimes transfers just kind of take priority in the Tier A. And then Albon here, averaging 13 points per race over the last 5 races. 3 points for a good price rise, 15 points for a great price rise. Pretty good running in Mexico yesterday. He was complaining, or kind of, I don't know, almost whining all weekend that Carlos Sainz like just had a better handle of him, and he wasn't really handling the car, but he was the one that finished the race, and he looked pretty strong like in the final stint. So maybe he can take encouragement from that and build on it for the Brazilian Grand Prix, where, if you remember, he did not even start because qualifying was in the morning of the Grand Prix. That's how bad the weather was last year in Brazil. And he smashed up his car in qualifying and he could not start. And that was when a lot of us, or it wasn't me, but a lot of managers still had their final fix, and they were able to just final fix their Albon out for another driver. A lot of people, I think, final fixed Albon out for Lance Stroll, who then also did not start the race because he got stuck on the formation lap in the gravel. But yeah, Albon maybe not the best long-term hope if we look ahead to Vegas. However, 11 points for a good price rise, 23 points for a great price rise. So something we have to think about there. Moving over to the Tier A assets, and oh my goodness, these decisions are getting harder and harder every week. This weekend, I went Verstappen Leclerc. Kind of worked out, could have worked out a little bit better if not for that virtual safety car at the end, but Lando Norris absolutely stormed Mexico City. He was by far and away the best pick this weekend. I did not go with Lando Norris because I couldn't get to him without totally blowing up my squad. And I guess looking back, that was the correct decision to not blow up my squad, but he was like far and away the best driver in Mexico City. So round of applause if you went with Lando Norris this weekend. Let me know in the comments below. He's averaging 23.8 points per race over the last 5. He still needs 38 points for a good price rise and 64 points for a great price rise in Brazil. So if you're looking to eke out some budget, Norris and Piastri are still kind of voids in that category. And then over the last 3 seasons, Lando has averaged average race finish of 4.0. However, he does have a DNF in there, so the stars next to the final position or the average Brazilian Grand Prix finish on this have had a DNF or have not raced all 3 seasons from 2022 to 2024. If you're listening on the podcast side, highly suggest you just jump over to the YouTube channel F1 Fantasy Pole Position right now and check out this table. I've got PPR or points per race over the last 5, Brazilian Grand Prix price rise points, and then Brazilian Grand Prix average finish from 2022 to 2024. So Verstappen here, 2.7 average race finish at the Brazilian Grand Prix, only bested by George Russell, who's at 2.5. However, Russell also has a DNF in there, so his are slightly skewed. Verstappen and Hamilton are the only drivers here to race and finish in all 3 of the previous Brazilian Grand Prix. So, Verstappen's going to do quite well here and feels like a pretty good hold. He's averaging 38.4 points per race over the last 5 races, needs 5 points for a good price rise, 31 points for a great price rise here. It is a sprint weekend, so the points will be on offer, and I believe he scored like 72 or 77 points here in 2024 after a phenomenal Sunday drive. So don't count out Max Verstappen. Piastri, 10.2 points per race, 48 points for a great price or a good price rise, 71 points for a great price rise. Has averaged 11.0 here in his 2 races at the Brazilian Grand Prix, so not a great track for him either. Russell, 26.2 points per race, has had a DNF. Leclerc is averaging 24 points per race over the last 5 as well. He had a really good Sunday drive after a really good coda, so maybe Ferrari is kind of figuring something out down the stretch. Lewis Hamilton's Sunday in Mexico was ruined by a 10-second time penalty for his kind of off the track or like on track but off of the racing line antics, where when I watched the replay, it kind of looked like Hamilton probably could have used the runoff road correctly. And I understand that it's a really thin runoff road, but it kind of felt like he was just so desperate to stay ahead of Verstappen that it almost cost him. Like if he had just taken that, he probably would have been on the better strategy, maybe could have caught Verstappen, but we will never know for the 10-second time penalty that he suffered. So in terms of Tier A drivers right now, I think Verstappen and Norris are a cut above the rest. Piastri, Russell, Leclerc are all kind of jumbled right now. Like even though Oscar had a pretty good recovery drive, he got to P5 after qualifying 8th. Still not good enough, and he has lost the World Drivers' Championship lead right now to Lando Norris. So we need to see how Brazil goes for the Australian driver. Right now, I'm not feeling great about his prospects. I'm not sure if I am considering bringing him in, especially because he's like kind of on for these weird budget falls at this point, and like Russell can get a pretty good rise here. Verstappen and Norris are the 2 drivers I would prioritize as Tier A assets, but Not all of us have that much budget. So for me, Verstappen is that much cheaper than Norris that it's probably worth it. But Piastri, Russell, Leclerc is really quite a jumble. And Piastri costs like 3 million more than Russell and Leclerc. It's tough. Like, I feel like if Russell and Piastri are in kind of the same form, I might lean Russell for the like cost saving. Russell versus Leclerc, if Ferrari looks stronger. Piastri versus Leclerc, I'd probably still lean Piastri just because that McLaren is a lot better than the Ferrari, as we saw yesterday. Like, Lando Norris just stormed away in the Mexican Grand Prix. Who's the supervisor, which is these guys are the boss's boss. So there we go. McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes over the last 5 races. Red Bull's averaging 64 points per race, McLaren 55, Ferrari 57, and Mercedes 58. So McLaren's actually at the bottom now for points per race and at the bottom, obviously, for points per million, as they are the most expensive constructor. But yesterday, they proved why it is a little dangerous to get all the way away from McLaren, because they scored about 85, 90 points in the race and had like a phenomenal kind of just overall day, with Oscar overtaking, Lando picking up the win. They got fastest pit stop as well. Red Bull, not as much. I think they showed their weakness with just having Yuki Tsunoda as the second driver. Like, Ferrari and Mercedes and McLaren both have far stronger pairings than Red Bull. And if Max isn't on it, he can't carry Red Bull without those 25 points he gets for a race win. So that is something else that is a little up in the air. Pit stop points here: McLaren at 11, Red Bull 8.8, Ferrari 6, Mercedes 4.4. That's really holding Mercedes back, but they are the cheapest asset and they're barely behind Red Bull in points per million. So they are coming into my thoughts in F1 Fantasy a little bit more. I don't know if it's going to be this weekend or this race in Brazil, just because Max is so strong around here, but they can offer a huge amount of savings if you are willing to kind of risk it for the biscuit, or risk it for the chocolate biscuit, as Zach GP says, and just kind of go like with the savings and take a couple of licks in the points department if you have to. It didn't like work out this weekend where they outscored Red Bull, but Red Bull with Max, I feel like they just have a higher ceiling, but also a lower floor because of Yuki Tsunoda. Whereas Mercedes is like, Antonelli's doing okay. Russell will always get the most out of the car when he can. And Ferrari is just so weekend to weekend dependent. It's really frustrating. Like, if you took the punt on Ferrari this weekend, it paid off. Like, great job by you. I just don't know if that's going to transfer over to Brazil. And with transfers being so important right now, flipping and flopping between constructors, where you usually need to like make a sacrifice somewhere else to get up to another constructor, is a little bit challenging in F1 Fantasy. Chip strategy here is quite simple, no negative. Just like, look at these numbers. 2023 season, average DNS per race, 2.04. The Brazilian Grand Prix had 6 DNFs. That's not even counting the sprint races. Just 6 DNFs in the race. In the 2024 season, average DNS per race, 1.6. The Brazilian Grand Prix had 5. So smoke it if you got it. No negative. Just play it this weekend, honestly. Like, don't play it until right before the sprint race, just in case something weird or wacky is happening. But it protects you from so many things. And Brazil is probably, like, with Vegas going to be a cooler race, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, I wouldn't expect any weather problems there. So Brazil really is no negative heaven for you F1 fantasy managers. And extra DRS, as Zach GP says, risk it for the bloody chocolate biscuit. He did. It almost paid off for him this weekend. He was very close with his kind of master stroke. It's a huge swing potential in either direction. Like, if you nail it, it could be huge for you, because most managers are not going to go there because of the rain. I probably won't go with the extra DRS because of the rain, but it is just riskier than I would like because of the conditions. So it's just something we have to remember with, like, I mean, Coda was just really unfortunate with a double DNF for McLaren and those managers that went with extra DRS there. But like I said, we're getting down to it. 4 races to go now. If you want to take a big swing, if you want to make up a huge advantage and you think that your mini league rival is going to play it a little bit safer and wait for Qatar or Vegas, maybe. I'm kind of wondering if Vegas might be a good extra DRS opportunity, depending on what Mercedes kind of looks like. But if you're like way behind, Brazil might be for you in the extra DRS department just because it is risky, but you got to risk it for the bloody chocolate biscuit, just like Zach GP says. Alrighty, so here is the T1 squad here. A squad that's in the top 2,500 in the world now, 137.2 million in budget, and 3 free transfers headed into the Brazilian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Gabby Bortoleto, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, McLaren, and Red Bull. Feeling okay about the squad. Not amazing, but Verstappen really good around Brazil, so don't see myself getting away from him here, but the ideal move that I would have made is Red Bull and Pierre Gasly out for Mercedes and then bringing in Ollie Behrman. However, I am 0.2 million short, or 0.3 million short of that, which is the difference that Carlos Sainz would have had between his 0.6 million drop and 0.2 million drop if he had just finished the race, or he was like on for an overtake as well and then spun and then parked his car up perfectly fine. No need for virtual safety car, FIA. Like, what are you guys doing? Well, we'll get into it. So that is off the table, unfortunately. However, Carlos Sainz needs 15 points for a good price rise, 20 points for a great price rise. I'm not sure how well Williams will do around here. We'll have to see. I'll read some more quotes. I think James Vowles said maybe they will be okay around here, but just holding on to Sainz right now is maybe not the best option. So I could just keep Pierre Gasly and then do the Mercedes and then bring in Ollie Behrman that way to get rid of Carlos Sainz and bring in Ollie Behrman. So that's an option. Ollie Behrman does have history at this track. He came in last year when K-Mag was sick, so he has had some experience right here compared to the other rookies. Gabby Bortoleto, on for a price rise, driver of the day, hometown race, or home country race, so feels okay there. Gasly, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that either. So those are 2 moves that are possible, but what else can I do here? Like, there are other options. So I could keep Sainz, and if Mercedes looks good, like we could just bring in Mercedes, and that would give me enough to go up to Oscar Piastri, who's now at 26 million. Don't hate this, but don't love having Oscar in my squad. Like, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Oscar Piastri an avoid in F1 Fantasy right now? Bortoleto, Sainz, Gasly. On the deadline stream before the Mexican Grand Prix, I was pretty much saying that I don't want to use my transfers on Tier B assets at this point. That might change heading into a sprint and depending on what we see in free practice and the sprint qualifying. But McLaren and Mercedes feels like a safe driver pairing. I think McLaren will be pretty good at all the remaining tracks. Mercedes should be good in Brazil and Vegas for sure. I'm not sure about Qatar and Abu Dhabi when it gets a little bit hotter at the tracks. So that's not awful here. I mean, I could get into the George Russell game as well. I can just kind of do that and leave myself with 3.2 million in the bank. I think Verstappen is where like you don't need Red Bull because he is the best asset here, and then you're not being dragged down by Yuki. We'll see how Antonelli does around here, but it kind of comes back to like, see, 0.8 short there. So I could, like, this doesn't feel good either, but I'm pretty sure Fernando Alonso is 5.5 million, but why would I want to do that? He's on for just falling. So I don't know if I can make up the prices there. And his current run of form is pretty bad. Like -15, -3, 30, -16, -15. He is like fading down the stretch in F1 Fantasy. So I don't mind this kind of Russell. That just almost maxes me out in budget. Not too bad there. And just keep Red Bull and McLaren, which is not bad. Sets me up for Vegas. Keeps 2, or I mean, that's just 1 transfer there. It is tough. Like, if Lando looks good, where can I get to? I'd have to sacrifice Sainz as well, down to probably another Alpine asset to bring in. Even where would I get to there? Drivers. So I could get Russell that way, double Alpine, but I'm not going to do that. Max Verstappen is so good around here. I don't think I'm going to be getting rid of Verstappen. Leclerc's probably on the chopping block if Ferrari don't look good. Leclerc to Russell seems like an okay move. And then Red Bull to Mercedes, that gives me enough money to kind of get okay with, like, I can definitely upgrade Pierre Gasly here. So Pierre Gasly would be able to get myself upgraded in the driver market to, like, just looking for someone here. Stroll, I don't really want to go with Stroll. It's weird right now in the B tier market because I have Bortoleto, who would be quite a nice target, but Hulkenberg, Lawson, Alonso's all had a DNF. Hadjar's not really having a good time of it either. 15 points to avoid a drop there, but yeah, so it's kind of a tricky area here in F1 Fantasy with this budget. But let me know in the comments below what you guys are thinking about for the Brazilian Grand Prix and what you think I should do with my 3 free transfers. Should I move to Mercedes and save some money there? But then, like, do I prioritize Behrman? Like, how do I... Bringing in Behrman could be a possibility, but, like, how do we get there with, like, keeping... I can't keep Red Bull that way. I just go to Mercedes and that's it. It's getting tough out there, and these decisions are going to become more and more important. But I think if I had to lock it in right now, I would maybe just go Mercedes. I think their form around Brazil is good enough, and they are the cheapest asset, and they're just kind of hanging in there with Ferrari and Red Bull. That gives me enough kind of flexibility here that I could go with that. And if Oscar shows up, that would be the obvious move here. Like Mercedes, Leclerc, and Red Bull to Mercedes and Piastri would be like simply lovely, to quote Max Verstappen. So I'd really like if Piastri showed up in free practice and sprint qualifying. But if it's not meant to be, it could just be the double up for Russell, almost like half setting myself up for Vegas. And then I've got this 3.2 million hole in my pocket here. I guess I could get off of Carlos Sainz to Ollie Behrman. Maybe that would be the final move and just take the easy price rise here instead of an easy price drop. So maybe these would be my 3 moves. So it would be Leclerc, Sainz, and Red Bull out for Russell, Behrman, and Mercedes. What do you guys think of those moves? Let me know in the comments below and what your lineup thoughts are for the Brazilian Grand Prix as well. So that'll do it for today's episode of the Brazilian Grand Prix, São Paulo Grand Prix team selection, race preview, whatever you want to call it. Quick VSC rant here, continuing on from last night where I was very, very upset. Like, I mean, F1 Fantasy aside, like, just as F1 fans, we were robbed. We were absolutely robbed of an epic finale to some epic chase downs of Max Verstappen on Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri on Ollie Behrman. And, like, Carlos Sainz was perfectly parked up. He was safely out of the way. Like, the marshals could have pushed him in. And then, like, for them to neutralize the whole race with a VSC when, like, a yellow flag would have been perfectly fine, or double yellows, whatever you want to do, like, would have been perfectly fine. And Max could have chased down Charles, and Oscar could have chased down Ollie, and all would have been fine. Also, like, F1 on, like, socials, like, tweeting out, like, this is why we deployed a VSC is, like, okay, that's fine. Then why didn't you deploy a VSC when you had 2 marshals picking up debris and Liam Lawson was coming around turn 1? Like, what? I don't understand it, but the FAA usually finds a way to make the story about themselves and not about the on-track action. So mission accomplished, FAA. Great job by y'all. A little bit disappointed, honestly, in F1 kind of like carrying water for them and just being like, oh, we'll protect them, blah, 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 blah. So that's not the best look, but I mean, it did cost me like 5 or 6 points in F1 Fantasy, but doesn't really matter all that much. It's more about just like we were robbed of like an excellent finale to which was a surprisingly excellent Grand Prix compared to, I mean, when you look at the fact that the winner like crossed the finish line 30 seconds before second place and we still had a pretty fantastic Grand Prix, like I will take that every day, but just a little bit of a disappointing end. But yes, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are new around here, we're chasing down that goal of 4,000 subscribers, so help me out there. I will be back next week with a Transfer Targets episode, Q&A stream, final thoughts, deadline stream, all the usual kit and caboodle that you're getting out of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. So once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.